July 24th, 2001, 10:37 p.m., Table Mountain, Teton County, Wyoming. Sarah George, 36 years old, mother of two, is dying at 2,800 meters altitude. Dehydration, hypothermia, pulse at 38 beats per minute. The emergency dispatcher says rescue teams need 6 hours to reach her on foot. She doesn't have 6 hours. She doesn't have 2. Then a voice crackles through the radio. November 8 Niner Hotel Foxtrot. I'll be airborne in 12 minutes. The dispatcher checks the volunteer pilot list. First name Harrison Ford, not because he's famous, because he's the only one willing to land where others won't. What Ford does in the next 43 minutes will save Sarah's life, change 3 generations of her family, and remain almost completely unknown for 23 years. Here is the story. Teton County, Wyoming. Population 23,000. Tourist season 3 million visitors per year. They come for Yellowstone, for the Grand Tetons, for the pristine wilderness that Instagram loves. What they don't see, the 847 square miles of mountains where cell phones don't work, where GPS signals vanish, where the temperature drops from 28 degrees at noon to 2 degrees at midnight, where people get lost, where people die. The Search and Rescue Coordination Center sits in a converted fire station on Cash Street in Jackson. 12 desks, 8 radios, 1 wall covered in topographic maps with red pins marking every rescue in the last decade. 173 pins. 12 of them mark deaths. On July 24, 2001, at 10:19 p.m., dispatch receives a call from Michael George. His voice shakes. My wife went hiking this morning. She didn't come back. Dispatcher Ana Rodriguez, 42 years old, 16 years on the job, asks the standard questions. Where, when, what was she wearing, what route? Michael doesn't know the route. Sarah told him, Table Mountain Trail. But there are 4 trails on Table Mountain. Anna pulls up the maps. Summer thunderstorm hit the area at 3 p.m. Temperature dropped 15 degrees in an hour. If Sarah got disoriented, if she wandered off trail, if she's injured, Anna doesn't finish the thought. She activates the volunteer search team, ground crew, K9 units, medical. Then she looks at the clock. 10:23 p.m., full dark, terrain assessment, too steep for night ground operations. She picks up the red phone. Direct line to the volunteer pilot list, 15 names. Most are crop dusters, ranchers with small planes, weekend hobbyists. Only 3 are certified for night mountain rescue in a helicopter. Only 1 lives within 20 minutes of the airfield. Anna dials. The phone rings once, twice, 3 times. Ford. His voice is calm. No sleep in it, like he was already awake, waiting. We have a hiker down on Table Mountain, female, 36, possible hypothermia. Ground teams can't reach her until dawn. Can you fly? Silence. 3 seconds. Anna hears something in the background, a door closing, footsteps. What's the wind speed? Anna checks the weather station. Gusting to 65 kilometers per hour at 2,800 meters. More silence. 5 seconds this time. Anna knows what he's calculating. Wind shear, rotor turbulence, landing zones, risk. I'll be airborne in 12 minutes. The line goes dead. Ana Rodriguez has worked search and rescue for 16 years. She's made this call 47 times. Only twice has someone answered on the first ring, both times. Harrison Ford. She looks at her watch. 10:25 p.m. She marks it in the log. Pilot N89HF dispatched. ETA Airfield. 10:37 p.m. What nobody in that dispatch center knows, what Michael George doesn't know, what the ground crew assembling their gear doesn't know, is that Harrison Ford almost didn't answer that phone, not because he didn't want to help, but because he'd been awake for 19 hours. He'd spent the day on a film set in Los Angeles, flew his private plane back to Jackson Hole, landed at 9 p.m. He'd just sat down for dinner when the phone rang. Most people would have let it ring, let someone else handle it, Let the voicemail pick up. Ford picked up on the third ring. Jackson Hole Airport, Hangar B7. 10:34 p.m. Harrison Ford, 59 years old, walks across the tarmac in a leather flight jacket from 1985. Jeans, worn boots. No cameras, no assistant, no entourage. Just him and a Bell 407 helicopter with 2008-47 flight hours on the frame. He does the pre-flight check himself. Fuel, full. Oil pressure, normal. Rotors, clear. Battery, charged, 3 minutes. Jake Morrison, 31, paramedic, 7 years with Teton County EMS, runs across the tarmac with a medical kit and a portable stretcher. He's out of breath. He climbs into the co-pilot seat, straps in, looks at Ford. "Thanks for doing this." Ford doesn't respond. He's already scanning instruments. Outside air temperature, 7 degrees at ground level. Wind, southwest, at 18 kilometers per hour. Visibility clear. But that won't last at altitude. Jake has flown with Ford 4 times before. Once to rescue a climber with a compound fracture on Rendezvous Peak. Once to evacuate a family trapped by wildfire smoke. Twice for medical emergencies in remote ranches. Jake knows Ford's reputation, not the Hollywood one, the other one, the one that matters out here. In 1998, Ford got his helicopter pilot license. Not for fun, not for luxury, for this. He contacted Teton County Search and Rescue, asked to be put on the volunteer list. They said yes. Since then, 37 rescues. 37 times he's dropped everything. Film shoots, vacations, family dinners, to fly into mountains where one mistake means death. 37 times he's refused payment, refused publicity, refused everything except the radio call sign and the coordinates. Ford flips the ignition. The turbine engine whines to life. The rotors begin to turn. Slow at first. Then faster. The entire helicopter shakes. Jake grips the handle above his door. Ford's hands are steady on the controls. His jaw muscle flexes once. That's all. 10:37 p.m. The helicopter lifts off. The flight from Jackson Hole Airport to Table Mountain takes 14 minutes in daylight with no wind. Tonight, with 65-kilometer gusts and 0 ground visibility, Ford estimates 20, maybe 25. He radios dispatch. November 8, Niner Hotel, Foxtrot to base, airborne. ETA search zone, 22 minutes. Anna Rodriguez's voice crackles back. Copy that, Niner Hotel, Foxtrot. Be advised, ground temp at search zone is now 2 degrees Celsius. Wind shear reported at 2,700 meters. Ford clicks the radio twice. Acknowledgement. No words. He banks the helicopter east toward the Teton Range. Below, Jackson Hole glows with streetlights, resort lights, the soft amber of civilization. Ahead, only darkness. The kind of darkness that swallows sound. The kind that makes instruments lie. Jake watches the altimeter climb. 1,800 meters, 2,000, 2,200. The temperature gauge drops. 5 degrees C, 3 degrees C, 1 degree C. He pulls his jacket tighter. Ford's jacket stays unzipped. His eyes scan the horizon, the instruments, back to the horizon. Over and over, a rhythm, a discipline. How many times have you done this? Jake asks. Ford doesn't look at him. This specifically? Or Night Mountain Rescue? Night Mountain Rescue in wind like this. Ford's jaw flexes again. Twice. Jake swallows. How'd they go? We're about to find out if it's still 2 for 2. The helicopter shudders. A gust from the northwest slams into the tail rotor. Ford compensates instantly. Pedal pressure. Cyclic adjustment. The helicopter steadies. Jake exhales. Ford doesn't react at all. Like the wind was expected. Like everything is expected. 2,400 meters. The radio crackles. Anna Rodriguez. Niner Hotel Foxtrot. Ground team reports possible visual on hiker. Northwest face of Table Mountain. Approximately 2,700 meters. Unresponsive to calls. Ford clicks the radio. Copy. Proceeding to northwest face. He adjusts course. The helicopter climbs. 2,500 meters. 2600. The wind intensifies, 40 kilometers per hour, 50, 60. The frame vibrates, the engine whines louder. Jake's knuckles turn white on the handle. Ford's grip on the cyclic doesn't change. Same pressure, same angle. Like the helicopter is an extension of his nervous system. Table Mountain appears ahead, a black silhouette against a black sky. No moonlight, no stars, just the faint outline of rock against slightly less black space. Ford flips on the searchlight. A cone of white light pierces the darkness. It illuminates snow patches, pine trees, boulders the size of cars. No hiker. Not yet. He circles the northwest face, slow, methodical. The searchlight sweeps across the terrain. Rock, snow, tree, rock. Snow, tree, nothing. Jake leans forward, scanning. His breath fogs the windshield. He wipes it with his sleeve. Then, there, Jake points. 2 o'clock, 30 meters below the ridgeline. Ford adjusts the searchlight. The beam finds her. Sarah George, curled on her side on a narrow rock ledge. Her jacket is red. Her hair is blonde. She's not moving. Jake grabs the radio. Base, we have visual on the hiker. Female, appears unconscious. Stand by for coordinates. He reads the GPS numbers. Anna Rodriguez copies them down, relays them to the ground crew. But both Jake and Anna know the ground crew is 40 minutes away at best. Maybe an hour. Terrain too steep, path too narrow. By then, Ford's voice cuts through the radio. Base, I'm going to attempt a landing. Silence. 2 seconds. Anna Rodriguez. Niner Hotel Foxtrot, negative. No safe landing zone in that area. Ford looks at the terrain. She's right. No safe landing zone. The rock ledge where Sarah lies is maybe 4 meters wide, 8 meters long, surrounded by steep drops on 3 sides, a pine tree on the 4th, space for a helicopter, barely, margin for error, 0. Copy that, base, attempting anyway. Jake turns to Ford. Ford, you don't have to do this. We can wait for the ground crew. Ford doesn't respond. He positions the helicopter above the ledge. The rotor wash kicks up dust, small rocks, pine needles. The searchlight creates harsh shadows. Jake can see Sarah now. Her face is pale, blue-tinged. Her chest rises and falls, barely, once every 5 seconds. If she waits for the ground crew, she won't be breathing when they arrive. Ford begins the descent. The helicopter drops. 1 meter, 2 meters. The rotor blades spin 15 centimeters from the rock wall on the left, 20 centimeters from the pine tree on the right. The wind gusts. The helicopter drifts left. Ford corrects. Pedal. Cyclic. The helicopter steadies. Drops another meter. Jake watches the radar altimeter. 10 meters to ground. 9, 8. The helicopter shakes. Another gust. This one stronger. 45 degrees off axis. The tail rotor swings toward the rock wall. Ford pulls up slightly, compensates, descends again. 7 meters. 6. The searchlight illuminates Sarah directly now, 23 meters away. Jake can see her eyes, half open, staring at nothing. 5 meters. 4. The wind drops, sudden, complete, dead calm. The kind of calm that happens in mountains before something worse. Ford knows this. He has maybe 10 seconds before the next gust. He drops fast. 3 meters. 2. 1. The landing skids touch rock. The helicopter settles. Engine still running. Rotors still spinning. Ford keeps his hands on the controls. Doesn't shut down. Doesn't relax. This isn't a landing. It's a pause. Go, he says. Jake unbuckles, grabs the medical kit and stretcher, jumps out. He runs to Sarah. Drops to his knees beside her. Checks her pulse. Weak. 40 beats per minute. Skin cold. Clammy, pupils responsive but sluggish, hypothermia, stage 2, maybe stage 3. He wraps her in a thermal blanket, checks for injuries, no visible fractures, no bleeding, just cold, dangerously cold. He looks back at Ford, gives a thumbs up. Ford nods once. Jake lifts Sarah onto the stretcher. She weighs maybe 50 kilograms but feels like 80. Dead weight. Unconscious weight. He drags the stretcher across the rock. 15 meters. 10. 5. Ford climbs out, helps lift her into the helicopter. They strap her in the back. Jake climbs in beside her. Ford returns to the pilot seat. Elapsed time on the ground, 2 minutes 47 seconds. Ford grips the collective, pulls up. The helicopter lifts. The wind returns. A gust from the east. The helicopter tilts. Ford compensates, climbs faster. The rock ledge drops away. The pine tree shrinks below. They're airborne. Jake starts an IV line in Sarah's arm. Saline. Her pulse ticks up. 42, 44. She's not awake, but she's not gone. Not yet. Ford radios dispatch. Base. We have the patient. Proceeding to St. John's Medical Center. ETA 12 minutes. Ana Rodriguez's voice comes back different, softer. Copy that, Niner Hotel Foxtrot. Good work. Ford doesn't respond. He banks the helicopter south toward Jackson. The altimeter drops. 2,600 meters. 2,400. 2,200. The temperature rises. 0 degree C, 3 degree C, 5 degree C. The lights of Jackson appear ahead. Amber, white, familiar, safe. Jake checks Sarah's vitals. Pulse, 49. Respiration, 8 breaths per minute. Color returning slightly to her face. He looks at Ford. You just saved her life. Ford's jaw flexes. She's not saved until the doctors say she is. But Jake has worked emergency medicine for 7 years. He knows what 40 beats per minute means in a hypothermia victim. He knows what happens when body temperature drops below 32 degrees C. Sarah was maybe 30 minutes from cardiac arrest, maybe less. If they'd waited for the ground crew, he doesn't finish the thought. St. John's Medical Center, Jackson, Wyoming. 11:08 p.m. Ford lands the helicopter on the rooftop helipad. Emergency team waiting. Dr. Patricia Reeves, head of emergency medicine, and 4 nurses. They pull the stretcher out, rush Sarah inside. Jake follows them, shouting vitals. Ford stays in the cockpit, shuts down the engine. The rotors slow. Stop. Silence. He sits there for 40 seconds, doesn't move, just stares at the empty stretcher straps. Then he climbs out, walks to the stairwell, descends 6 flights of stairs to the ground floor. No elevator, no fanfare. By the time he reaches the parking lot, the emergency team is already stabilizing Sarah in the ICU. By the time he drives home, her body temperature is back above 34 degrees. By the time he falls asleep at 1:30 a.m., her pulse is 62 beats per minute and steady. Sarah George wakes up 14 hours later, July 25th, 2001. 1:47 p.m. She's in a hospital bed, IV in her left arm, oxygen tube in her nose. Her husband Michael is sitting beside her, holding her hand, crying. She tries to speak, but her throat is dry. A nurse, Jennifer, 28, 5 years at St. John's, brings water. Sarah drinks, swallows, speaks. What happened? Michael squeezes her hand tighter. You got lost on Table Mountain. You were unconscious. They found you. Harrison Ford flew a helicopter and brought you here. Sarah blinks. Harrison Ford? Like Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford. Michael nods. He's a volunteer pilot. He's been doing search and rescue for years. Nobody really knows about it. Sarah stares at the ceiling, tries to remember. She remembers leaving for the hike at 7 a.m., remembers the trail, remembers a fork she didn't recognize, remembers going right instead of left, remembers the thunderstorm at 3 p.m., cold rain, trying to find shelter. Remembers sitting down to rest, remembers being so tired, so cold. Then nothing. Blackness. Until now. I need to thank him. Michael shakes his head. The nurse said he already left. He didn't wait around. Sarah closes her eyes. A stranger saved her life and didn't even stay to hear thank you. She'll try to find him, write a letter, something. But first, she needs to see her kids. Michael brings them that evening. Tyler, 8. Emma, 5. They climb onto the hospital bed carefully, like she's made of glass. They cry, she holds them, promises she won't go hiking alone again, promises she'll be more careful, promises she's not going anywhere. 3 weeks later, Sarah George is home. Full recovery, no frostbite, no permanent damage, just the memory of cold, and a stranger's voice she didn't hear but somehow felt. She writes a letter on August 14, 2001, finds Ford's address through the search and rescue coordinator, drives to his property in Jackson Hole, a modest ranch house at the base of the Tetons, no gate, no security, just a gravel driveway and a mailbox that says Ford. She knocks on the door, holds a handwritten letter and a homemade apple pie. The door opens. Harrison Ford stands there, jeans, flannel shirt, reading glasses hanging from his collar. He looks at her, at the pie. Recognition flickers in his eyes. Mrs. George. She tries to speak. Can't. Starts crying instead. Ford steps forward, takes the pie gently, sets it on a table inside, comes back out and hugs her. Not the Hollywood hug, the real kind. The kind that says, "I'm glad you're alive," without needing words. After a long moment, Sarah pulls back, wipes her eyes. "I don't know how to thank you." Ford shakes his head. "You don't need to. You saved my life. I flew a helicopter. The doctors saved your life." Sarah hands him the letter. Ford takes it, folds it carefully, puts it in his shirt pocket. Doesn't read it. Not now, not in front of her. "Do you do this a lot?" Sarah asks. "The rescue thing?" Ford nods. "When they call." "Why?" He looks past her toward the mountains. "Because somebody has to show up." Sarah wants to say more. Wants to explain what it means to her kids to still have a mother. Wants to tell him that Tyler has been drawing helicopters in his notebooks for 3 weeks straight. Wants to tell him that Emma now wants to be a pilot when she grows up. But Ford's expression stops her. Not cold, just private, like he doesn't want this moment to become bigger than it needs to be. "Thank you," she says again. "You would have done the same," Ford replies. Sarah shakes her head. "No, I'm not a pilot. I couldn't have done what you did." Ford looks directly at her. "It's not about being a pilot. It's about showing up when it's easier not to." He says goodbye, closes the door gently. Sarah walks back to her car, sits in the driver's seat for 5 minutes before starting the engine. She realizes something. Harrison Ford doesn't want to be a hero. He wants to be useful. There's a difference. One wants applause. The other just wants the job done. 3 days later, the calls start. Producers, agents, journalists. Someone at the hospital talked. The story leaks. Harrison Ford saves woman in daring helicopter rescue. The headlines write themselves. Ford's agent, Patricia Morrison, calls him. "CBS wants to do a segment. They're offering $50,000 for an interview." "No. ABC will match it. Maybe go higher." "No. Harrison, this is good publicity. People love this stuff." "That's exactly why I'm saying no." Patricia pauses. She's represented Ford for 14 years. She knows his voice. "This isn't negotiable." "What about a reenactment?" "You don't have to appear. They'll use actors. $5 million for the rights." Ford is quiet for a long moment. "It wasn't entertainment, Patricia. It was a person's life." "I understand, but..." "No. The answer is no. To everything. Tell them to stop calling." Patricia sighs. "Okay, I'll handle it." The calls don't stop. They never really stop. But Ford stops answering. He changes his number, tells the search and rescue coordinator to keep his name off public reports. When journalists show up at his property, he doesn't answer the door. When they call his agent, she says the same thing every time. Mr. Ford has no comment and wishes to keep his volunteer work private. Most celebrities would have turned this into a press tour, a book deal, a TV special. Ford turns it into silence. Not because he doesn't want recognition, but because recognition turns heroism into performance. And the moment heroism becomes performance, it stops being heroism. What Ford doesn't know, what he won't know for years, is that Sarah George keeps that apple pie recipe, makes it every July 24th. Her kids don't understand why at first. Then she tells them the story, not the Hollywood version, the real one, about a man who answered a phone at 10:25 p.m. when he could have let it ring, who flew into darkness when he could have said, "Wait until morning," who landed on 4 meters of rock when he could have said, "Too dangerous," who left before anyone could thank him because that's not why he came. Tyler grows up, joins the volunteer search and rescue team when he turns 18 in 2011. He tells people, "My mom almost died in 2001. A stranger saved her. I want to be that stranger for someone else." He goes on 47 rescues in 12 years. He never once asks for payment, never once calls the media. When people ask why, he says, "Because somebody taught me you just show up." Emma grows up, becomes a helicopter pilot, earns her license in 2017, specializes in mountain rescue. She flies for a private emergency service in Colorado. She goes on 93 rescues in 6 years. She charges wealthy clients market rates, uses the money to subsidize free rescues for those who can't afford it. When people ask why, she says, "Because when I was 5, someone showed me that helicopters aren't just for movies. They're for showing up." Sarah's third child, born December 2003, is named Harrison Michael George. When he's old enough to ask why, she tells him about the man who landed where ambulances couldn't reach, about the man who refused to profit from heroism, about the man who taught her that the most important things in life happen off-camera. Harrison George Jr. graduates high school in 2021, enrolls in wilderness medicine, wants to be a trauma surgeon in rural areas. When people ask why, he says, "Someone saved my mom before I was born. I carry his name. I want to carry his example." Jackson Hole Airport renovates Terminal B. They install a wall plaque listing volunteer rescue pilots active between 1995-2008. 43 names. Harrison Ford is listed 7th. No star, no special font. Just his name, his call sign, and a number. 52 rescues. The plaque is brushed aluminum, 12 inches by 18 inches. Mounted in a hallway most passengers never walk through. No ceremony, no press release. Ford doesn't attend the installation, doesn't want to. Someone mails him a photo. He frames it, hangs it in his workshop, not his living room. Next to a photo of his helicopter, next to his pilot's license, away from the Oscars, away from the movie posters. Sarah George writes another letter, this one on the 14th anniversary of the rescue. She tells Ford about Tyler's search and rescue work, about Emma's pilot training, about Harrison Jr.'s name and his dream to become a doctor. She thanks him again, says she thinks about that night every July 24th, says she knows he doesn't want attention, but she wants him to know. His decision to answer that phone created 3 lives dedicated to helping others. That's a legacy nobody can film. Ford receives the letter, reads it, folds it carefully, puts it in a drawer with the first letter from 2001. He never responds. Not because he doesn't care, but because responding would make it about him, and it was never about him. It was about Sarah, about Tyler, about Emma, about Harrison Jr., about showing up. Have you ever had someone help you in a way they'll never fully understand? Have you ever been saved by someone who didn't want anything in return? Not thanks, not money, not recognition. Just the quiet knowledge that they showed up when it mattered. Think about that person. Think about what they gave you. Now ask yourself, when will you be that person for someone else? Tell me in the comments. Harrison Ford is 82 years old. He stopped flying rescue missions in 2016. Age, insurance regulations, reflexes not what they were. He still keeps his helicopter license active. Still keeps N-89HF in Hangar B7 at Jackson Hole Airport. Still pays for maintenance. Just in case. Just in case someone needs him and nobody else can go. Teton County Search and Rescue now has 47 volunteer pilots. 12 of them cite Ford as their inspiration. They didn't meet him, didn't train with him, just heard stories about the actor who spent weekends on standby, who answered calls at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, who landed in places the manual said don't land, who left before the cameras arrived, who turned Hollywood heroism into real heroism by never letting anyone film it. Sarah George is 59 years old. She lives in Idaho Falls now. Her kids are grown. Tyler runs a wilderness medicine training program. Emma flies for a non-profit mountain rescue service in British Columbia. Harrison Jr. is finishing his surgical residency in Missoula, Montana. Sarah thinks about July 24th, 2001, every single day. Not with fear, with gratitude, because that was the night she learned that heroes aren't the people who want you to see them be heroic. Heroes are the people who show up, do the work, and leave before you can make them stay for applause. On July 24th, 2024, 23 years to the day, Sarah George drives back to Teton County, parks at the base of Table Mountain, hikes to the northwest face, finds the rock ledge where she almost died. It looks smaller now, less dramatic. Just 4 meters of flat rock, surrounded by mountains that don't care if you live or die. She sits down, looks up at the sky, imagines the sound of helicopter rotors, the searchlight, the wind, the cold, the moment between dying and living. She thinks about the man who gave her that moment, who gave her 23 more years, who gave her the chance to raise Tyler, Emma, and Harrison, who gave her the chance to see her kids become adults, who show up for strangers the way a stranger once showed up for her. She stays on that ledge for an hour. Then she hikes back down, drives to Jackson Hole Airport, walks through Terminal B, finds the plaque in the hallway, runs her finger across the name Harrison Ford, call sign N89HF. 52 rescues. She takes a photo, sends it to her kids with the caption, "The name that changed everything." Hollywood makes movies about heroes who save the world. Harrison Ford saved a woman on a rock ledge in Wyoming and refused to let anyone make a movie about it. Because it wasn't entertainment, it was a person's life, and some lives are too important to sell. There are 273 million people in America who know Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, as Han Solo, as Jack Ryan, as the guy who says, "Get off my plane." Fewer than 10,000 know him as November 89er Hotel Foxtrot, as the voice that says, "I'll be airborne in 12 minutes," as the pilot who lands where ambulances can't reach, as the man who saves lives nobody films. Sarah George knows both. She's seen the movies, she's met the man. She'll tell you the man is better, not because he's humble, not because he's kind, but because when her life was on the line, Indiana Jones couldn't save her. N89HF could, and did, without asking for anything except the coordinates and the wind speed. That's the difference between Hollywood heroism and real heroism. Hollywood heroism needs cameras. Real heroism just needs a phone call and the willingness to answer it. And unfortunately, they don't make men like Harrison Ford anymore.